Hello, friends. I'm Ashok Narotkar, and you're watching my program, Political Philosophy of Fascism. Last time we talked about the human conflict, many times, which is exploited by fascist people. And they make the division like horizontal conflict and vertical conflict. And making the vertical conflict, divisive conflict, they are benefited. The power game is played. They get benefited for retaining the power, for creating divisions. Today we'll see how this power game goes on and how do they play this power game. To play this power game, they use certain techniques. They first of all attack the language of common people. Let us call it common sense language. The common sense language common people use in their daily affair, in their daily exchange. You may call it ordinary language, but it's not ordinary in the sense that something is special. It's not like that. Ordinary simply means the language that is used by day to day common going people, ordinary folks, that way. Now, these fascist people, in order to play their power game, they distort the language. They play the language game. But their playing language game is altogether different. And here I remember that first of all, we should see this how language game is played. I remember the Austrian German philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, for the first time, introduced this term in the modern times, language games. Let's see what does it mean by language game. The language game is not some sort of game we play while speaking or something like that, but he has some special connotation, special import here, and that is what he says that there is certain tradition of the language, there is certain framework of the language, convention is there, and in that convention ordinarily we use the language as if it were a game, like when we play a game, so we have some rules and we follow those rules, and therefore all the players they understand each other. Or take for example any part of your life, any activity of your life, like say some building construction is going on, and in that building construction activity, the mason asks his assistant to give sand. So the assistant brings the sand, the laborer brings the sand. The mason says, bring the cement, and the assistant brings the cement. The mason says, bring that block, and the assistant brings the block. So here there is the dialogue, there is the framework of using and understanding language. They understand the word. What is the meaning by block? What is the meaning by sand? What is the meaning by cement? Everywhere it happens. On the operation table, the doctor asks the assistant to maybe through some symbols or through some signs, and the assistant properly gives sometimes Caesar, sometimes this or that. So this is how the daily affair, daily activity goes on. This is called usage theory. Wittgenstein calls it usage theory. And because of this usage of the language, proper usage of the language, the words, we don't confuse. There is no confusion between you and I. I understand you and you understand me. Because what we understand by the particular word block, what you understand, my understanding is also the same for the particular word cement, block, whatever, stone. This is how this language game or language activity or communication goes on. But, friends, unfortunately, fascist people, for their power game, distort this language game, distort the ordinary language of common people. How? Take, for example, the term democracy. Now, what is the meaning of democracy? Democracy would simply mean where people collaborate with each other, they vote for certain party, so to say, and it is by majority or it is by consensus or it is by agreement, and many a times the ruling party takes other people into confidence, the opposition in confidence. Let us call this the act of orientation. The ruling party orients with the opposition orients with the ruling party. But in the fascist game, fascist picture, the agenda is altogether different. Here, as soon as the fascist government or the fascist regime takes place, wins the power, maybe by majority, no problem. Then the real power game starts. What happens? The fascist people make the use of those who had helped them in electioneering and in getting elected. Maybe these people are very rich people. In the modern language, you may call them corporates. The corporates help these people, and these people are fascist now. A group of people, very powerful people, aristocrats, and many a times very highly placed government servants, bureaucrats, you may say. So they also many a times help a particular faction. I mean here the fascist faction, or rather the fascist faction, or the fascist mentality, fascist activity, fascist power game goes on this way. The other picture could be there. I stand corrected. But in this framework, fascist framework, although they use the term democracy, but actually it's not democracy, it's oligarchy, what we can say. It's aristocracy, it's plutocracy. So, this is how many times this ordinary term democracy is distorted, misused. The language misuse has taken place. Another example, take the word culture. Now, what Wittgenstein would say, what is the meaning of culture? What could be the meaning of culture? Well, it's a life form where people exchange, people express themselves, people eat together, or people live together, coexist together. Right? They have their own traditions, they share, sharing is there. That is what is the meaning, or that should be the meaning of ordinary culture. term or culture. The meaning of the culture in ordinary usage is to share, to have a dialogue, to exchange, to express, to live together. It is the lifestyle of different people. A may have different lifestyle, B may have different lifestyle, C may have different lifestyle. That is what is culture is. But friends, these fascist people, they again distort this word culture. They would say there is a categorization, or rather, we can make the categorization of the term culture like original culture, subordinate culture, primitive culture, modern culture, smart city culture, rural culture, hmm, native culture, alien culture. And this is how, by implanting this division, they rule. Well, they tell some people that their culture is original culture. So they feel important. And they tell certain people, some other people, that their culture is subordinate culture, alien culture. Now these people feel displaced, neglected. This is a problem. The problem is this, that if at all we take into consideration the concept of originality, can we really prove anything as original, at least in the human world? Can we prove some culture as original culture? I don't think, because anthropologists would say that this culture is rather quite old. And the paleontologists would say that, well, there was another culture existing thousands of years before. So it's problematic that we cannot certify any particular culture as the original culture. I remember here there is one French philosopher, Job Baudelaire. He says that it's very difficult to prove the concept of originality in human world, because what we call as original, some other culture also might be there before that. Some precedent culture may be there, back and back and back, and there is no end. So he would say that there is a modification. The cultures evolve. What we today see as the particular culture is not the particular culture. I mean, it was again, it came from some other culture. So there is a modification, change is there. He calls it simulation. So all this simulation or simulations, simulacra, that takes that simulacra take place. Simulations take place continuously. We cannot certify, we cannot name any particular culture as original culture. So this is the problem. But the fascist people, for their own benefit, they just name anything as original, name anything as alien, name anything as subordinate, name anything as rural. Well, that is the power game. One more thing is there, how these fascist people distort the language. Take, for example, the simple term which we daily use, leader. What is the meaning of leader? Wittgenstein would say, or ordinarily, leader means one who guides, one who is your friend, with whom you can confide, you can have faith, you can talk together. So that is the meaning of leader, one who leads, that's all. He's a guide, he shows you the way, that's all. Ordinarily, that is the meaning of leader. But fascist people, they again distort this word by saying that leader commands. as if he were the commander of some army. Of course, in that sphere, in that reference, that sort of commanding is different in military or army. But in human world, commanding would create a problem. If the leader starts to command, gives order, then he turns into be a dictator. Then he no more is a guide. I mean, you can't expect any guidance, love from him. He becomes sort of dictator. Of course, he assures you that he'll protect you. So he creates the image of himself as protector, rather ultimate protector, the savior, the prophet, as if he were a messiah. So this is what happens. Fascist people, they distort the ordinary world for their own gain. You know, the same way they again play with one more thing called opposite terms. Let's call them binary opposition. For example, in our ordinary language, we say hot. What is the opposition of hot? It is cold. What is morning? The opposition of will be evening. There is the binary opposition between day and night. No, this is okay. In ordinary language, this model works in the actual world, in the objective world. But fascist people, they employ this model of ordinary language into human language. They distort this model. And they say that there is the binary opposition between social and antisocial. They make antisocial as the opposite of social. Is that tenable? Is that reasonable? Suppose someone comes to me for having donation of some program in the locality. So I am declared as social because I give donations. Moral, social. But if I don't give donation, then I am antisocial. Is it tenable? Is it logical? I may be indifferent. If wearing particular types of clothes is social, then suppose someone wears different types of clothes, then can he be immoral? Is there any opposition between moral and immoral? There is one category called amoral, that is neither moral nor immoral, indifferent, independent. Fascist people go on distorting like this. So they would say that the opposition of love is hate. Now, if Thomas loves Tina, if you make the opposite sentence, so can you say Thomas is the enemy of Tina? Thomas hates Tina? That is not reasonable. If Thomas doesn't love Tina, that doesn't mean he hates Tina. So there is no opposition between love and hate. That will be problematic. So this becomes a sort of power game, distorted game. If you just do, if you play this way, that those who are yours, they are yours, and those who are not yours, they are your enemies. So let us call this the binary opposition, created binary opposition between us and they. Can there be any other language game played by fascist people? Well, we'll see that later. Thanks for watching. Take care.